It seems like we got the top billing just after lunch on day 2. So hoping we can bring a very energetic conversation to bear. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Breen Madden. I have the privilege and honor of leading AI and embedded marketing in AMD. And I'm here with a very distinguished panel to talk about AI. And I think you've heard a lot about this in the last day or so, but we've got some exciting questions and conversation to have. And as we introduce ourselves, maybe go through this, maybe as you introduce yourselves, could you just maybe tell us where you feel we're on this AI journey? Are we well ahead? Are we going fast? Are we just at the starting point? Starting with yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Arpit Dave, and I'm responsible for technology teams at Amgen. Just a little bit about Amgen. We're a mission-driven company, and our mission is to serve patients. We've been on forefront of biologics innovation for over 4 decades. And being science-based and leveraging technologies to drive innovation is key to our core. So the way we think about it, to your question, artificial intelligence, innovative technologies, and data is going to be fundamentally a key driver for us to allow more innovation faster and reach more patients. And glad to be here and glad to talk more about it.
Fantastic to have you here. Very good. Let's move on.
Hello, everybody. My name is Abhi Seth, and I lead the Enterprise AI and Data team out of Boeing. We are an airplane manufacturing company. We have a big distribution business as well as a big presence in the defense sector. I think in terms of where we are with AI, I think we are a 100-year-old company, and I think having deep expertise, we have 60,000 engineers, and having decades of experience, I would say, in the broader umbrella AI, how we define it today. A lot of experience in simulation, design, test, massive amount of data from wind tunnels, for example. And then, if you think about where we are on the forefront of AI, I think there are areas in which we are experts, and then there is AI technology has been evolving at such a rapid pace where we are barely scratching the surface. So there we have services that we have sold in AI to end customers around fuel efficiency, prognostics, optimization for crews, minimizing disruptions. And in other areas, for example, generative AI, we are still working on scratching the surface, like all of us, to figure out what the future holds for us.
Great. Sharon.
Cool. Good to see so many folks here. I'm Sharon. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lamin. Lamin is an LLM inference and fine-tuning platform for enterprises to do so very efficiently with their developer teams. My background is I was previously computer science faculty at Stanford, leading a research group in generative AI, where I also did my PhD with Andrew Ng in generative AI, and I teach over 1 million people online in generative AI. And before that, I was in product at Google. And I think we're sprinting out of the gate in terms of where we're at. I think we're still at the very beginning. We're still at the very, very beginning of scaling laws, which is saying that data plus compute equals intelligence. And we're just scratching the surface on use cases. And everything that we see today, I think we'll see as very shallow over the next year and over the next decade. So I'm really excited to see kind of new opportunities. But I do think we're moving incredibly fast, and it's exciting to see so many organizations adopt AI effectively and also be able to ship them, be able to start deploying these applications for real business value.
Wonderful.
Vivek. Excellent. Hey, I'm Vivek Mohindra. I was here yesterday, so I saw many of you yesterday. For those of you who were here yesterday, a little bit of it will be a repeat. We're proud to say I lead our corporate strategy for the company. We are sprinting ahead, to use Sharon's word as well, which you can kind of expect with us just crossing 40 years in the industry, founded by Michael in the dorm, Michael still at the helm. You can imagine. So we are sprinting ahead. We have defined the use cases very precisely and methodically. We are marching forward, and we believe we are in the early innings, frankly, but we are sprinting ahead.
That's great, because I want to stick with you for a second, if that's okay. And just, Dell have been at the forefront of infrastructure innovation and forefront of AI infrastructure innovation. what do you see as being the main infrastructure challenges with enterprises with regards to adoption of AI? And what cool technology are Dell bringing to market to help alleviate some of those concerns, help address the challenges, and open up opportunities at enterprises?
Yeah, great question, Brian. So let me anchor my answer to the 5 core beliefs we have about using generative AI, and it is reflective in the challenges that we see and the opportunities too. So the 5 key beliefs we have, it's all about the data. It's better to bring AI to the data than to bring data to AI in a world where 83% of the data sits outside the clouds and 50% is generated at the edges. Third, there'll be a whole plethora of models all the way from large to small to purpose-built to general purpose that will play a role. Fourth, you need an open and modular architecture, which allows you to mix and match things evolving at different speeds. And fifth, you need to have an open ecosystem to bring it to our customers. The challenges we see are kind of mirrored in that and anchored in that. And because we think of ourselves as customer zero, it helps us, it provides us immense clarity in terms of what our customers are seeing. Number one, which use cases should we focus on? Number two, what should we do with our data and how to get the data in shape? Number three, how do we balance between training and inferencing, with most of the workloads going towards inferencing side? And then also, culturally, what do we do with our teams and talent and people? And our product strategy reflects that. We have a great partnership with AMD, of course, so thank you for that. Our portfolio, which straddles services, server storage, networking, data protection, PCs, it gives us the full suite to be able to tell and help the customers figure out where they should deploy GenAI, as well have the entire layer so we can help them optimize and execute in the best place possible.
And it's 2 things that struck me as you were talking there. First of all, this is an end-to-end opportunity.
Absolutely.
From edge to cloud. Not all workloads are created equally. They can, as you said, you can deploy AI very close to the source of data for latency and privacy concerns. But I love the term customer zero. I think for companies like Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, Dell, and the OEMs, to understand their role in enterprises as a customer zero and taking on board their own learnings and ingesting those and then bringing those out to the enterprises. And I'd like to turn to our 2 enterprise companies here in Boeing and Amgen being a leader in biotech, Boeing being a leader in aerospace. How are you adopting AI within your enterprises? It's a 2-part question and to 2 people, so it's 4 parts, right? The second part of the question, which is, how are you using AI to develop your next generation of products? So for Boeing, the next airplanes. For Amgen, the next biotech discoveries. Would you like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Amgen, as I said, our mission is to serve patients. And we serve patients with very serious diseases. To do that, it requires ability to reach patients with uninterrupted supply. And we have a history of doing that consistently, despite of all the challenges that world had faced over the last 4 decades. So as we think about the next era, we think about a few things. So starting with the outcomes, what outcomes are we looking for? So there are 2 key outcomes that we think about. One is improving patient care. By reducing the cycle time it takes us to get the patients the drugs. So how can we reduce the cycle time and reach patient faster? That improves our ability to reach more patients with unprecedented speed. And the second outcome that we think about is, especially with AI and generative AI, is allow us to think about our business in a continual improvement zone. So how can we think about ways of working with AI at center and reimagine it? So as to your question, as we think about these 2 outcomes, we really look at, and I loved your word end-to-end, but we apply it in a little bit different context. We look at end-to-end business process. So one of the key outcomes we talked about is reaching patient faster.
Sure.
There are many steps that an organization has. And what we're doing is applying AI at center to help optimize all of those steps. Second one, we talked about changing the work and how we operate. We do that certainly to drive productivity, but the other reason is also to help future-proof the workforce and the skills that they will require professionally and personally. So we keep those 2 key outcomes in mind. And then as we think about applying that, we think about building a full stack. So this group is very familiar with that, and you touched on it, Vivek, which is the importance of data. So how are we ensuring that we're thinking about data-first approach, bringing models to it as appropriate, and then apply the right guardrails and governance around it? So let me bounce off to you, and then I'll come back to that more.
Sure.
Yeah, I think at Boeing, I think a lot of, we see analytics as AI outside, AI inside, if you think about it. So for AI outside, if you think about, we have been offering AI to our end customers to drive disruption management, right? So a lot of times, all of us travel. I had like 4 canceled flights last 3 days. Anyway, so
I can understand.
Jokes aside. Okay, so I think a lot of the focus is really on how do we drive, failure prediction, prognostics, and the whole idea behind that is how do you bring, I think you do AI inside, AI outside, I think is bringing domain, data, and AI together, right? I think that's kind of how I like thinking about it, to create a business capability. And to your point, Arpit, it's really outcome-driven approach, right? So a lot of the focus has been on how do we work with our airline customers to drive disruption management, able to predict the disruption that's going to happen, but not just predicting the disruption, but also providing, the recommendation systems and making sure that the right part is at the right place at the right time. So we can provide, hey, here is what's going to happen, here is the recommendation, here is the maintenance manual procedure you can go do, but at the same time leveraging our vast distribution business to make sure that we are able to provide the right part so that you can actually proactively do that maintenance. The other areas we are doing AI is really driving, a lot of focus on sustainability, right, for our end customers. So how do we drive fuel efficiency and reduce carbon emissions? That's a big deal for us. And how do we drive our sustainability agenda, help our customers in saving fuel, making flight, more carbon neutral, the whole industry. I think we are leading a big charge on that. I think if you think about internal AI applications, we have done, heavy investments and a lot of focus on the simulation side and the product design and test analysis side. But then we are shifting into really going deeper into supply chain analytics, right? I think supply chain analytics, engineering and safety, and a lot of focus for internal is really safety and quality, as you can imagine at the moment.
And I think just taking on something you said there, it's this theme about sort of AI for good, right? Sustainability. I think we all understand the requirements around that and the challenges within our society. So it's great to hear Boeing stepping up to that challenge. And Arpit, you wanted to come back on that as well?
Yeah, I wanted to give you stage just to one allow, even though our industries are very different, I think the type of application we're thinking about of AI and technology is very similar. You touched on it, and the way we think about it is really predict and prevent. In past, there's been many attempts to leverage data to achieve that status, but especially with generative AI, predict and prevent becomes a thing that is very much in arm's reach, allowing our customers to leverage those type of concepts. And one example that I wanted to bring to light is we have a new manufacturing facility in Amgen at Ohio that we launched earlier this year. And we designed this facility as a good example of how keeping AI and automation at center. Unprecedented efficiency, productivity, but more importantly, agility. So this is where not just think about AI as a panacea or standalone component, but how do we integrate that with image recognition model, but also robotics and also predictive analytics. So bring the whole tech stack together can help achieve this outcome much better. So that's one insight I wanted to just leave with when think about AI, we think about broader technology stack and AI enabling it.
Yeah, and it's an area where AMD is focused on the edge, what we call the edge, this new frontier for AI, which is whole application acceleration, and on the factory floor where you're taking vision applications, you're processing those the data, and you're coming out with outcomes. It's really great to hear. I want to switch over to Sharon for a second, if that's okay. And Sharon, you've been working with enterprises for a while on their adoption of LLMs and generative AI. What do you see as being the biggest challenges that enterprises are seeing in adoption of LLMs, and how is Lamin helping them? And Lamin even and AMD helping them as well. And the second part of the question, because it's a two-part question, is what is the role of an open software approach and an open ecosystem, transparent ecosystem play in this as well?
Yeah, I might start with, what are the opportunities, and then what are the challenges to getting to those opportunities? So I hear these incredible use cases here, right? And if we were to extrapolate that into the future, what does that mean? Maybe drug discovery, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's a decade-long process with maybe a 90% failure rate. What if you could drop that down to 1 or 2 years with a 20% failure rate? That would be a dramatic difference. How long does it take to, create the next airplane? Actually, don't know that answer. Feel free to answer. But if you could drop that down, that would be a dramatic difference to society at large, but certainly for these enterprises. And the reason why that is still possible, that next step has not even been close to breached, is because these magical GPTs, these magical general purpose models, have only been trained on a minuscule amount of data that's available in the world. It's all the public data, but there's so much private data. Even with some of the smaller companies we work with that only have, there's one that has a couple billion in revenue. They, every single one of their use cases, they have more data than it was to train GPT-4. More than 15 trillion tokens. And so that's just incredible. And I don't think they even realize that. So I do think, intelligence is very much supported by that. Now, what are the challenges to getting there, right? Not every team out there has OpenAI's or Anthropic's team. And I think that can make it challenging and a completely different paradigm. Not every team out there wants to invest several $1 billion upfront before seeing ROI. Right? So I think some of the challenges are around, we see security being a big piece. Like if LLMs are the most valuable derivative of data today, it, as a deep derivative of your data, you probably want to keep it somewhat secure because your data is both very proprietary for your proprietary advantage, and also to be able to meet compliance. So security, huge piece. Be able to do things on-prem, be able to do things without internet access even. This is a very complex technology, and running these things on GPUs, like AMD GPUs, very different beast than hitting some web server on CPUs. So it takes quite a bit to make that happen. And then the next piece is around hallucinations, like getting these models to accurately be able to answer a question and not say something similar to that answer, to that fact, is very, very challenging as a machine learning problem. We have a customer, is a Fortune 100 customer. They previously had a team of three data science teams, spend 9 months using advanced RAG and instruction fine-tuning. They were able to get a 50% accuracy on a text-to-SQL use case. And we've invented this new way of fine-tuning called memory tuning, and they were able to reach 95% accuracy. That was really important to them to now then say, hey, we can actually deploy this to our business analysts, and we can do it on our own. And so I think that's really powerful. So yeah, to enable, I think that, and sorry, the third thing is around being able to access, you have your data within your enterprise, but to turn that data into intelligence, you absolutely need compute. And you need compute that can actually efficiently turn that into intelligence. We've partnered very deeply with AMD as a compute partner. We've actually for us, for our personal development and also for some of our customers who use our hosted cloud, we only have AMD GPUs. So we've only bought AMD GPUs.
And you've only had AMD GPUs for
the past
18 months?
Several years. Yeah, we actually started on AMD GPUs. My team, we're all deep experts in the space, and we started AMD GPUs before ChatGPT because we knew what the role of compute would play in the story of intelligence. And so we made that decision very early on in the company, even before the company was founded. And my co-founder is actually one of the original architects of CUDA. So he also very much knew that compute was incredibly important, and it's compute plus data equals intelligence is kind of the formula. So yeah.
And speaking of compute, I want to turn to Vivek for a second, if that's okay. Yeah. It's a great segue. One of the key enterprise challenges with regards to infrastructure, data center modernization, if you will, is energy. The role of energy, the cost of energy, and of course, we know GPUs and CPUs require many kilowatts. How is Dell approaching energy efficiency within the server strategy? And what sort of innovations are you bringing to the market to help alleviate those challenges?
It's a great question, Brian. I was looking at some numbers recently to put some dimensions to the problem you described. A traditional server rack, give or take 10 to 12 kilowatts. The new GPU server racks, 100 to 120 kilowatts. New scale clusters of data centers, 150 megawatts. The power consumption for a scale cluster, about 1.6 terawatt hours per year. That's a massive amount of energy consumption. So we've been laser focused on this problem, and being end-to-end really helps us significantly. What we've come to realize is we need to architect each of these components to be most energy efficient possible, and also make sure that we architect the entire system to be energy efficient. So by way of example, we have our flagship 8-way server that we launched, the 9680.
Yeah.
It was the best, highest performant air-cooled at 35 Celsius. A lot of engineering went into that. We have now recently announced and launched 9680L, which is the direct liquid-cooled version of that. It is 33% more dense in terms of how many you can stack in a rack, as well as 2.5 times more power efficient. And that means a lot when we're talking about these massive energy consumptions for these data centers. We also know that you cannot just optimize the server layer without thinking about the other problem in terms of how do you get the data there through the networking layer, and what kind of storage do you put in place. So we have a robust family of offerings, and with our power scale and object scale portfolio, which is a software-defined storage portfolio, which has much better speeds in terms of write requirements and others, and we launched a whole set of them at Dell Tech World too. And of course, same thing on the networking side. What we're beginning to find out, interestingly, with the initial customers being Tier 2 CSPs and now rapidly moving into enterprises, is that the Tier 2 CSPs require a lot of optimization across the whole stack to be able to extract the most out, and that's where our engineering teams go in and help a lot. So our view is this is something that we'll all have to grapple with as an industry. All of us have a role to play in that, in the entire chain. I know you are doing your bit, and others are as well. And we are doing our bit using our strong engineering capabilities to be able to extract the most out of these systems at the least power possible.
Yeah, I think from an AMD perspective, we completely agree with that. We're maniacally focused on bringing CPU and GPU technology to market that's very energy efficient, with our EPYC CPUs in servers all the way through to our Ryzen processors and PCs even, right? It's an important aspect of our value that we bring, and it's great to partner with the likes of Dell. I want to bounce back to a topic that's close to my heart, responsible AI, or ethical AI. And without belaboring, because I know we all think about this a lot, but in AMD, we took a decision to approach how we adopt AI internally in a very methodical way. We worked with the Responsible AI Institute and got audited, and we put practices in place to vet the applications that we want to use both internally, across things like HR, marketing, sales, silicon development, software development. Can you give maybe an instance within your companies how you're also looking at responsible or ethical AI as a cornerstone to your strategy as well?
Trustworthy AI from NIST is the framework that we're adopting. Building trust in the AI is going to be the most critical success factor to think about adoption. As my colleague said, right, we're sprinting, but eventually there's a fatigue in the sprint. And if there's lack of trust, then people will stop using these tools. So building trust is critical, and that's where we're implementing this entire framework of trustworthy AI, but also ensuring that there's right governance in place. So we have set up the governance council within Amgen that is participated across functions, so compliance, quality, technology, our data group. So all cross-functional folks coming together to think about it. And when we think about governance and applying this trustworthy AI framework, we think about all the stack. So starting with use case governance, it's really important that you first understand how the technology is going to be used. Is that the right way to use it? So start with the use case, but then also think about data and content governance that's going into the models. The third one is, of course, the model and the platforms, on which we're running the AI, so we're governing that. And the last one is really security. So not just information security, but the entire security package, how are we applying it? So we think about those four as a key component to ensure that AI is staying trustworthy, ethical, and compliant.
Yeah, the idea of this council, I think it's something that's central. I've heard from side conversations we've had here. A lot of companies have taken the same approach we have done in AMD as well.
Yeah, I think it's a similar story. I think you can't go too far. You're absolutely right. I think you can't go too far in the AI journey without really, and I think it's without establishing what are the right ways of working for responsible AI. So we have a responsible AI program as a part of our Boeing AI community where we have actually created a governance model. And I would say it's kind of 4 key things we are looking at. The first one is really robustness, repeatability, and reliability of AI, right? So can we get repeatable results? Can we get robustness? Can we get reliable outcomes? Second one is really explainability and transparency, which is very important because I think in our case, it's really as we talk about data, domain, and AI, it becomes very important to understand. I think if you don't drive trust and if you don't drive explainability, I mean, trust comes from explainability and repeatability, right? I think that's kind of where it gets derived from. So having that explainability is key so that you can actually drive adoption and you can drive understanding. The third one is really, I think, security compliance, as you talked about, and bias. More importantly, I think some of the panelists this morning touched about it. I think understanding and how do you train our data science community of thousands of AI scientists on how to think about bias, how to think about these elements. And the last one is really human in the loop, right? So every aspect of AI that we are driving at Boeing is really having, some level of monitoring and control from a human being. A lot of the focus today is really augmentation of the human versus like really driving AI out of the gate. So that's kind of how we are thinking about responsible AI as a program.
And it's about trusting your data, right? The integrity of your data within your organization and making sure that you keep that sacrosanct.
I think the data story is very interesting because I think all of us have been in the industry, including the audience, and you will see that we started in the late 2000s, early 2000s from big data to machine learning to deep learning, now GPT, and I think analytics capabilities and modeling capabilities have transformed, to an exponential pace. But I think how many people have actually been able to keep up maturity of their data at the same pace as the algorithms, right? So our data maturity still, for all companies, have kind of crawled up a little bit, people who were really focused on it. And then the algorithm capability have actually skyrocketed. So there is a huge divergence there. So focusing on data is really, really absolutely essential.
Couldn't agree more. Sharon, a different approach in Lamin with LLMs, right? You have an ethical approach in how you work across the ecosystem. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. It varies across our customers because they vary across industries. But I will say data is a huge piece of this because now your data is so much more valuable because you can turn it into something like LLMs. And as a result, security is incredibly important, right? Like how much you've been securing your data, you should double down on that for your LLMs. So that's something that we help our customers be able to deploy to air-gapped on-prem, no internet sites, to all the way, of course, to CSPs, et cetera. So that's one. I think another thing is, again, very industry specific. We work with insurance companies. It is pretty bad if they misquote a claim or something like any number, getting that wrong inside of an insurance contract or the like is very detrimental to both you and me, right, to all of us. And so for them, this is mission critical to get those numbers correct, get the facts right. And the LLM is a very probabilistic system unless you're able to embed facts deterministically into them. And so that's also how we help. We have algorithms to help with essentially injecting determinism into the model itself, into the weights of the model itself. So those are the two different ways. Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic, and you're right on the tip of the innovation curve with that as well, which is wonderful. And Vivek, from Dell's perspective.
Yeah, look, it's a big focus area for us as well, and I'll echo a lot of the comments that Arpit, Abhi, and Sharon have made. Starts with the data. Are we using the right data? Do you have the right to use that data? Is it free of biases? Models. What are you modeling, and do you have explainability within that? Humans in the loop. And very similar to, I think, what Arpit, you were describing, we have also set up a very strong governance around at an overall level as well as around this particular topic internally. And of course, we also participate with the industry forums around that. I think the good news, as far as I'm concerned, is I think our entire industry seems to be coalescing around the same ideas and the same types of benefits and the responsibility that all of us individually have to play. Because if any deliverer of this does not abide by that, then it kind of, the whole model breaks down. So I think I'm encouraged by how we all view it as a shared responsibility.
But it also comes back to that customer zero ethos, right? You know,
Absolutely.
You need to be the pioneer to help drive what those policies will be into the industry as well, and you know, subsume them within your own organization and make the mistakes and learn from them and iterate, right? So you can teach others as well.
You're absolutely. I think being customer zero is immensely clarifying and immensely focusing. So that's the approach we take.
One other question, Sharon, I want to go back to you, and it's around ecosystem. You know, deploying LLMs at scale at enterprises requires collaboration. It requires what our ethos is, an open approach. How do you see the ecosystem forming together to support enterprises as they scale generative AI into their businesses? And what did the roles of an AMD, a Dell, a Boeing, and an Amgen play with the Lamin in that approach?
Yeah, there's a huge amount of partnership that's involved here, right? I think Dell and AMD enable compute to be leveraged at scale and in an energy efficient way. And then, of course, Boeing, Amgen have like the deep data sets that are going to be made valuable and that are going to actually influence those business processes. And Lamin, of course, is trying to translate the data into LLMs that are actually valuable. This is a multi-layered kind of deep partnership across all these organizations to make this possible. And the reason is because, like, let's just step back. This is a very complex piece of technology. Some of our customers are if I were to tell you who they were, you would say, wow, I can't believe they need help building LLMs, right? They are some of the top machine learning organizations in the world, and yet they're like, this is a different beast entirely, completely different. There's one, they spend $14 billion a year on IT, and they have many thousands of data scientists, and they constantly get their infrastructure escalated to the CEO, right? So that's a very big deal because that doesn't usually happen in a space, right? And so having a deep partnership across all of these layers is incredibly important to making it possible. But it's very exciting, and I think we actually are only at the beginning, so.
Yeah, I think so. Going back to our first point, I think we haven't even reached off the starting block.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
The gun is just gone.
So we might have done that.
We're coming to the close of our session, and I really enjoyed this conversation, but I think I want to have a bit of fun now, and I'm going to ask you to be the Nostradamus in the room and predict the future of AI. But at the same time, there's a couple of questions that have come up in Slido, and as you've answered the future-looking question, maybe you can also answer, what's the one single biggest business benefit that an enterprise can get from AI? And then maybe come in with your futuristic view of where AI is going.
Yeah, I'll get us started on a lighter
please.
note. Not predicting future, but tell you the future.
Good.
One thing that's certain
Okay, interested.
is that globally, the population is aging. So across the globe, we have aging population, and we need more innovation. Mm-hmm. So we are very confident that with the use of technology, biology, and especially the human data, we have a high degree of confidence in developing the therapies that can help patients who are struggling with grievous diseases. So to me, I think building on the second question you were asking, it really comes down to speed. Enterprises can get unprecedented speed. You have to be really thinking about that deeply to know where the bottlenecks are in the process. So you're not just solving for one bottleneck and creating the next one. But if you truly take a look at end-to-end view of your process, your organization, and really try to optimize for speed, I think AI and generative AI can be a huge benefit to help advance that. And of course, efficiency is always there as these tools make all humanity more and more efficient.
And there is another question around what industry outside of your own is more ripe. So I'm going to speak about your industry. I think healthcare and science and research, I think is absolutely ripe for AI. And we're already seeing the benefits of that in drug discovery and in cancer cures and things. So I'm very encouraged to hear that you're doubling down on that as well.
I would say, I think in terms of transforming is really, I think the ways of working. I think the key change is like speed is an element of it, but I think the way we work and the talent, right? I think the people who are going to come tomorrow, like I have a 7-year-old, I was trying to push him for learning Python. And then after last year, I'm like, okay, is there any point of doing that? Yeah. I think so the ways of working are going to completely transform. The way we grew up and the way we have been using AI, I think how the next decade and the 2 decades is going to be. I'm not going to be bold enough to predict the future, but I would tell you that we rolled out our GenAI platform to 170,000 users, so 22,000 active users at Boeing. And it's became a test platform for people who don't know a single line of code, but have the domain and the data expertise to actually try a GenAI on what it could do. We are not productionizing it, but all kinds of innovative things coming to us, which we did not foresee. That is really the most interesting fact. When we just had a Boeing AI summit, a lot of people came in and talked about how they're leveraging it, which we did not really foresee. And really the structure and the responsible AI aspect really now goes into how do you think about providing a platform to drive unhinged innovation, but then what is the structure and responsibility, and how do you really be outcome-driven as you put things into production? So that's kind of how I think, a huge opportunity ahead of us. I think doing it responsibility versus getting the horse out of the barn and then try to catch it, it's really important. But at the same time, balancing it with all the unknown opportunities that are.
And it's interesting to hear a company the size of Boeing, that you have so many unknown AI projects going on until they all come together and you realize you actually have this. It takes a village to build this AI child, right? So,
absolutely.
Very good. Sharon.
Yeah, I think the future is going to have, I think the best models of the future are not going to be the ones we actually know and love today as household names. I think, especially that are domain-specific, industry-specific, I think there will appear much stronger models for every single one that are deep experts in them. I think that will be a dramatic departure from what we have today. Not saying the ones we have today won't be there. It's just I do think the ones of tomorrow are yet to be built, and we don't see them even emerging yet. And I think they will be built by other teams. I think kind of to the idea of, my son's not learning Python, I think more and more will be comfortable, each and every one of us, building these models. Right now, it's a colossal effort. If you want to pre-train, even fine-tuning can be difficult, right? I think that'll be super easy in the future. So you'd be like, okay, I'm going to go do that there. Okay, that there. And it would be very easy to build out these experts, essentially expert assistants for each and every one of us.
And it was fascinating hearing yesterday on another discussion here about a farmer who was able to build his own model without any coding experience. So I think we're already there.
That is exactly the key thing is like you get surprised with generative AI that you could not do with machine learning.
Exactly. Yeah. So Vivek,
I'll try to be quick. Look, I think we are seeing huge productivity improvements, and industry studies have shown anywhere between 20 to 50%, depending upon where you apply it. There are 2 stats I remember, or try to remember. First, 60% of the jobs today did not exist in 1940. 85% of the roles today, 85% of the new roles created today since 1960 are because of technology-driven innovation, which is, Sharon, to your point, we don't even know, but we are really early innings, and the future's so bright, you got to wear shades. I think there's a song around that, right? So.
Well, on that note, I'd say thank you very much to our panelists. You've been wonderful conversations, and I wish you luck on your AI adventures. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot.